Greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Topic UFO. Tonight, we'll be speaking to Mr. Jeff Willis. Jeff is located down in Phoenix, Arizona, which seems to be a hot spot, or has been a hot spot for many years. Jeff has accumulated quite a library of video captures of different UFOs over the years. He has been on several television shows regarding UFOs. He's had some of his footage used in a Walt Disney film, Race to Witch Mountain. So he's a very well-known ufologist. I'm sure some of you may already know him or know of him. And I think it'll just be a really interesting conversation. He had his first experience at 5, and from there, it just kept going. So I just can't wait to hear what his life has been like. So stand by, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a second to talk to Jeff Willis. Don't go away.
If you're still watching television on a small screen set, you're missing a lot. Here, for example, is a close-up on a 10-inch set. See how much smaller it is than my head? Now I'd like to show you the same close-up on a 21-inch set. There. Just look at the difference. She's as big as I am now. You can have big screen close-ups just like that. Close-ups as large as life with RCA Victor's great new 21-inch model, the Master 21, at the lowest 21-inch price in RCA Victor history, as little as $199.95. Visit your RCA Victor dealer soon. See television's greatest value, the Master 21, big screen 21-inch quality TV for $199.95. And remember, every year more people buy RCA Victor than any other television.
Well, welcome back, everyone. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and bring on our guest for the evening, Mr. Jeff Willis. Jeff, are you out there, sir?
Yes, I am. How are you doing tonight, Rick?
I'm doing great, Jeff. Thanks so much for being on the show tonight. I can't wait to get started. Now, Jeff, your experiences go way back. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to talk just a little bit about some of the TV and film work that you've been involved with. As I was saying, telling the audience during the intro, you have quite a list of shows here: Chasing UFOs, Fact or Fiction, Ancient Aliens, X-Testers, Weird Travels, and then you have also Race to Witch Mountain, which I believe wasn't that a Disney film?
Yeah, it's a Walt Disney film starring The Rock, the wrestler.
Right.
That's what it was. And they wanted to keep the UFO theme, so they asked several researchers in the UFO community if they can have a few real clips of UFOs, and so they asked me if they can use some of my clips with a few other people's clips, and I went ahead and did it, and it's a great intro. At the beginning of the movie, you see probably anywhere between 60 to maybe 80 real quick UFO clips.
I have not seen the movie. Now I'm going to have to go see it or rent it or something. Well, I tell you, that's must be pretty neat to have some of your work, featured in a film, and a Walt Disney film to boot. Your experiences go further back than even the mid 70s, I think. I'm not sure quite how old you are, but you first experienced ETs, UFOs at the age of 5. Here we go again with this age 5. I don't know what it is about age 5, but
Yeah, it was about age 5, age 6. It was mid-70s, 1975, 76, right in there. And I was lying in bed. I just turned out the lights. I was getting ready to go to sleep. And I just had been laying there for probably about 5 minutes, hadn't even started to get tired yet. And all of a sudden, I felt a hand underneath the covers grab my hand, like it was holding my hand, and it wasn't like an evil entity or anything like that. It was kind of a loving type of energy I got from it. However, it also kind of seemed to be putting me in some sort of a trance as well at the same time, and almost like, kind of like you would rock a kid to sleep type of a feeling. And all of a sudden I got scared because I realized that what's holding my hand. At first I tried to explain it away as maybe my mom laid in the bed and grabbed my hand and hold my hand to try to get me to go to sleep or something like that. But then I remembered that she was out in the living room, and then I saw her walk by the door out in the living room, and right at that moment, that's when I started to get panicked and started to get scared. That's when the fear built up in me, and I was really confused, like, who is this? And that's when you gained enough power, because I was like kind of scared, like in shock, and I gained enough strength and power and fearlessness to reach over as fast as I could to turn on the bedside lamp. And as soon as I turned it on, the pressure released from my hand, and I looked, and there's nothing there at all. And that's when I was first introduced to another reality that there's something else out there, whether it be ghosts, aliens, or angels. As a little kid, you don't know what it is. So that's when my quest started to find out what this was.
So you didn't actually get to see this, quote unquote entity. So you don't know whether it was a gray or, like you say, an angel or whatever. But it just got your curiosity to the point where you were going to go investigate, huh?
Right. Not at that time. I didn't get a good look at it. And a matter of fact, I've had a lot of bedtime type of incidences throughout my entire life. And I'd say up until just about a year and a half ago was the first time I ever got an actual real good look at what has been contacting me.
Really?
Yes. And throughout all my experiences, I had only seen a shadow or a dark figure or a something, like I said, contact, like by touching a hand, like the first incident. But they always were very elusive until about a year ago I actually was able to see the face of one of these creatures.
Well, before you go there,
yeah.
Before you go there, you had something happen at age 10 though as well, didn't you?
Right, absolutely. When I first had that first experience, like I said, it got me really interested in what is this, and so I went into the local library there at my school where I was in the third grade. I started to after kindergarten, I started trying to find books on the mysteries of the world, and I was drawn straight to the books that show UFO photographs from around the world, as well as Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and the mystery books. And I was drawn to them, and I somehow had a feeling that whoever was in my room that night had something to do with these photographs of these UFO pictures in these books. And then later, when I was about 10 years old, a few years later, I actually was able to see one of those daylight discs, what people refer to as daylight disc. However, mine was cone-shaped. It was kind of It looked like the water towers you see in New York City. That was the shape of it, with kind of a cone top, and it was only hovering about, I would say, only probably 50 to 100 feet above a house in Bellevue, Washington, where I grew up. And when I saw it, it was, about maybe 12 to 2 in the afternoon, somewhere in there, and I was riding my bike home from a swimming pool in Bellevue, Washington, and I was riding my bike on a little side street, and something caught my eye to the right-hand side, and I turned to see what it was, and it was this cone-shaped UFO, like I said, about 50 to 100 feet, just right up, wobbling back and forth, and kind of falling as well, in kind of like a leaf, like how a leaf would fall from a tree, rocking side to side, and also kind of wobbling. And so I turned my bike towards it, and I started riding after it. I was chasing this thing, and it was over one house, and then it slowly went over another house to the west, I believe. And as it was going, it went over that part of the neighborhood to where I would have to go down a hill and around the corner, because it was going over people's backyards. So you'd have to ride your bike all the way across the other side of the block just to catch up with it. By that time, it was low over some trees, and it went down into like a wooded area. And this was one of the experiences that I had, that I also had a missing time experience with this incident. As I'm going up this trail where these high, I'd say like 5 foot tall grass area, into this open lot with this high grass before the wooded area, and the UFO was going down into the wooded area. So when it went below the tree line, I had to ride my bike through this grassy field. When I approached the wooded area, that was the last thing I remember. However, I had I don't know. I really don't know what happened. I really can only chalk it up to what I read and about a UFO abduction, and that is a missing time episode. And I tried to write it off, like maybe I fell off my bike and knocked myself out or something, but I woke up like a couple hours later, and it was already dark out, and I couldn't find my bicycle, and I finally found it in some grass and rode home. When I got home, my parents were mad. I was late for dinner, and I should have been home hours ago.
And they didn't believe you when you told them you were chasing a UFO?
Yeah, I did tell them that. I said I saw a weird object in the sky, and I chased after it. And I don't think they really believed me or anything like that. But
well, you must have been, at that age. I guess we're all a lot less fearful to be going and chasing after one of those things. I've heard of other people, seeing these, like you say, water tower or barrel shaped type UFOs that just kind of float there. What do you think those things are? Are they just like little probes? Do you think there's something inside?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that if it's a good sized one, like anywhere between like 30 feet in diameter, circumference 30 feet, I would say that that's a manned craft, and that's just my personal opinion on it. When it gets to the smaller realms, like we videotape, like I say we because there's a lot of sky watchers out there like me that videotape these things, and we videotape a lot of these little white dots, is what I like to call them. And when they're really, really high altitude, they could be circular saucers and 30 feet wide. But if they're lower, they're smaller, and I would consider those as a probe type of object, or like a drone, maybe an alien type of probe or alien drone. And we don't want to just say that they're UFOs, though, because a lot of witnesses have seen an orb that looks like the same things we videotape, a smaller orb, way up there. A lot of these people seen an orb about the size of a basketball appear in the bedroom at night and actually turn into an entity. So these things could be the ET in its energy form too. So we don't want to just write it off as a probe or a craft. A lot of those white orb dots could be the ETs themselves.
Just freaky stuff. Freaky stuff, Jeff. Now, I'm sorry, because I cut you off. Let's go back now and pick up where you say you actually got to meet or see what this thing that's been following you,
right.
You finally got to see it.
Right, okay. How it usually starts is it's a lot of, now this is where the abduction scenarios, a lot of times they've taken a bad rap. And a lot of scientists and people that don't believe in this stuff try to write a lot of this stuff off as sleep paralysis. However, this is not what's happening in the abduction phenomenon, because a lot of times that's how it starts out. It starts out to where you're paralyzed in your bed. However, you're not asleep. And that's how these scientists try to write it all off as, oh, you were in a sleep paralysis dream state or something like that. But that's not what happened. That's how it normally starts out. However, this time I was lying on my stomach in bed, and I was just taking an afternoon nap, and it was only probably about 12:30 in the afternoon. And I just laid down on my stomach, and all of a sudden, about maybe 10 minutes into trying to get to sleep, all of a sudden I felt paralyzed. I couldn't move. All I can move is my eyes. And at that point in time, I knew that this was happening again, and because this is how it normally starts. Now, I felt when I couldn't move, I couldn't, all I can move is my eyes, and all I'm trying to do is break out of the paralysis, to try to break out of it and, turn over and get out of it. And so I felt a hand on my back, like pushing me into the bed, like down on the bed, like holding me down. Like, not only am I totally paralyzed, I can't move, but whatever this entity is pushing on my back and like smashing me into the bed as well. And it's very terrifying.
Yeah.
At that point, I was able to break free of it, and basically, there's different breaking free of these experiences. I've broken free several times of their paralysis, and each time there's different ways, experiences when you break free. There's different. The only way I can describe it is there's different sensations to your body when it happens, but. At this incident, I broke free and was able to quickly roll over onto my back in just like a panic, like, oh great, I finally broke free of the paralysis, and I was able to turn around on my back as quick as I could to see what was pushing on me. And at that exact second, as I turned around, I saw what they would normally. The abductees explain is the people that they see is I saw a face like 2 inches from my face for only not even a full second. It was maybe a half a second, maybe not even that, maybe a quarter of a second. I saw this face, and it was the skin texture of the face. The only way I can describe it is maybe a frog. Like a texture of a frog, or when if you ever seen a liver, out of a liver taken out of someone's body, that texture of the liver is what the skin texture of this being was. And it was like a dark gray, more of like a mix between a brown, light brown color to a dark gray color. And I didn't see any mouth. If there was a mouth, it was very, very small. It had like veiny on the sides of its upper cheeks. I saw like veins, like under the skin, kind of would pop out, kind of like how I described the texture of a liver would look.
Now,
go ahead.
Now, I was going to ask you, when you saw this face, was it three-dimensional? I mean, the image or the object, this face you were looking at, was it 3D?
Yeah, it was three. It was in the room. It was three-dimensional. However, all I saw of it was from the neck up. I don't recall. Maybe the shoulders. I vaguely recall shoulders. However, it disappeared as quickly as I saw it. And when I did see it, I finally was so happy that I actually got a look at these guys, because they've been in my room many, many times throughout my entire life, and I never really got a good look at them. And when I finally did, it matched the descriptions that all the people that have seen these guys, they refer to them as a small, gray alien being with big black eyes. It did have the big black eyes, and the face was the same as how people would draw these things and describe them.
The more you investigate, the more bizarre it becomes, I must say. Well, listen,
yes.
Jeff, I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of videos. Now, your website, UFOs over Phoenix, correct? UFOoverphoenix.net?
Yeah, UFOsoverphoenix.com. And I have another website, UFOfootage.net.
Okay.
Those are my two sites.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the Phoenix one I've had for quite a while, and the UFOfootage.net, I've had that one for probably, I'd say 5 years or 6 years or something like that.
Well, there were two videos on there that when we first spoke, you told me to go look at these two, and that was May 24th, 2003, and May 12th, 2005. I'm going to pull up this May 24th, 2003. I believe this is the one where this probe-looking thing is flying over the roof of your house, right?
Right. Absolutely. I was out in the backyard, and it was like, afternoon sometime, and I seen the object coming towards the house, and I immediately ran inside the house, grabbed my camera, ran out in the backyard, and was able to hit the record button right as it was going over the top of my house, and then it did kind of like a little U-turn thing, and then sped off into the east towards the Superstition Mountain area.
And, when I look at this video, once it goes over the roof, it looks like you turn the video off and then you get repositioned and you turn it back on, I believe. I mean, that's what it looks like. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in that short amount of time, this thing looks like it traveled quite a distance, because it's very small now, way out there.
Right.
Is that what happened, or is that just...
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Right after it did a U-turn, it kind of shot to the east real quick, and it like traveled like within just like a mile or so in just like a couple seconds. And I don't think I ever turned the camera off. I just think when it did a U-turn and then shot away, I couldn't find it. And so I kind of was like in the backyard trying to look for it, and then finally I got it again, but it was further away. And at that point, I was like, well, I don't know anything that can do a U-turn, go in one direction, then stop on a dime and do a U-turn, and then shoot a different direction to the east. And, so right away, I knew I'd gotten something. I'd shot a lot of video like that before that were daylight objects, but not one that close at that point in time.
And what's fascinating about this particular video, and I believe I sent you an email about it. I'm gonna put a freeze frame up so that the viewers can see this as well. But there is one frame, okay, so 1/30th of a second, one frame where it appears that object spits out this little white ball. Now, that doesn't look like a video artifact.
No, and I know, and I'll let you know what I think the theory is on it. Mainly, a lot of these objects that I shoot video, sometimes they drop stuff out of the bottom of it, and all I can really say it could be is the exhaust to what the propulsion method of whatever propulsion these things are flying on. It's like an exhaust, whether it be antimatter distortion or some sort of exhaust that's coming out of the craft, and a lot of them are referred to as angel hair. A lot of people that see UFOs after they go by, all of a sudden they see this cobweb or spiderweb stuff falling from the sky, and a lot of people have dubbed it as angel hair, and that's just another word that they call it because it's not cobwebs, it's not coming from a spider, it's not a spider web, it's thicker, it's a thicker material, and it falls from the sky generally after UFOs go by. And a lot of it, videotapes of UFOs in the daylight, you can see the angel hair kind of stuff dropping it from the bottom of it. And I think at that point, when it got so low, that I was able to record the object's angel hair exhaust stuff coming out of the bottom of it as it did the U-turn.
I've never heard of that before. That's interesting.
Well, what happens is the angel hair or substance that's released, it will reflect the sunlight, and it'll cause reflection off of the sunlight off of it, which will appear as a glare, which a lot of times in photography that'll look like a reflection will end up looking like a ball or an orb or something, off of.
Right.
Off of
okay. That. I got you.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was actually a tinier probe that came out, but my suspicion is that it was a reflection from whatever that angel hair type of substance that's often sighted when daylight UFOs are around.
Okay. Then I learn something new every day, I tell you. So, what do you think this particular object was? Do you think this was a manned object, or do you think this was some type of drone?
I think that one was a manned object because that object right there was about the size of my Jeep Cherokee, and so that would be you could seat 4 people in it, in my Jeep, and I know that's it's about the same size, I would say. So, and these guys are a little bit smaller than us, so I would say maybe, depending on what the craft is being used for, I would say it would be maybe a 2-man craft, possibly a 4-man craft. Flipped up on its side at that point, or it was traveling. It's hard to tell what angle these things are at when you're pointing straight up in the sky. You see a ball or a domed object, and it's just, they don't travel like, how airplanes have to travel, where they're, where you have an up and you have a down. I mean, these things can be flipped on its side, be upside down, or what we would call upside downs, right side up. They're using, if you know anything about what Bob Lazar talked about in Area 51, he was a guy that looked at some craft that the military said that they had recovered, and he said that the craft that he looked at, he talked about the briefing documents that they gave him, and the briefing documents said that the craft that were recovered came from Zeta Reticuli, from those same beings that we were talking about earlier, and he said that their mode of travel, there was a element that isn't available on this planet called element 115, and it's about the size of your finger, and it goes into a reactor inside the craft. Inside the middle of the craft, there's a reactor where you take the lid off the reactor, you put the element 115 inside, and put the lid back on the reactor, and then it bombards the element 115, and the result of it is antimatter, and that's what's diffused outside the craft is antimatter, and that's how the craft uses the antimatter to travel through space-time. What it does is the antimatter bends and warps space-time. So, for instance, they don't have to travel, if they're from Zeta Reticuli 32 light years away, they don't have to travel 32 years at the speed of light in a linear mode. What they do is they bend and warp space-time, and on their radar, so to speak, they pinpoint where they want to go to where they are, and when they match both of those areas up, they stop bending and warping space-time, and there they are at their destination. They can travel, like I said, 32 light years within about 5 seconds. When they're done warping space-time and they're at their location where they wanted to go, at that point, the UFO, it uses what he called a gravity A wave, which is when the craft is closer to a planet. It uses the gravity A wave to ride on the gravitation of the Earth, kind of like a surfboard would do on the water. And they use that mode of transportation when they're close to a planet. They use the antimatter distortion when they're traveling star systems.
Wow.
And that's how Robert Lazar explained it. And you can see all that on YouTube. You just type in Bob Lazar excerpts from the government Bible, and that video will pop up, and he'll tell you everything you wanted to know about these beings.
But wasn't Bob Lazar, I don't know if it was proven, was it ever proven one way or another that he was making this all up?
No, what happened?
Or do you believe what he said was true?
Yeah, I believe everything he said is true, and I'll tell you why. Because in a lot of different UFO cases, the government takes away and erases your record of certain things. Like in the Air Force, for instance, there's a story breaking right now. I don't know if you're familiar with the Remington Forest incident up there in UK back in the 80s.
Oh yeah, right.
Okay, well, one of the guys that they said were shot up into the beam of light, he's trying to get his medical records from the government.
Right.
He's going into heart surgery, and the government changed his military records. For a while they were like saying he wasn't in the military, and then his records were showing he wasn't in the military, and now they couldn't hide it, so they've released documents showing yes, he was in the military. But then he can't get records for his medical records for for himself, because the government deemed them classified. So if you're working in Area 51 and all of a sudden you want to be like Bob Lazar and become a whistleblower, instead of coming straight out and killing him, they erase certain parts of his records to make him look not credible. And, for instance, he said he worked at a school or went to a certain school, and then there was no record that he was in that school.
Yeah.
However, if you dig into the story a little bit more, you'll find that they tried to find the records that he went to the school, but they couldn't find it. But they found an old staff menu, a piece of paper that had certain people on the staff to the lunchroom or something like that, and he was on the staff. You can see his name on the staff. So they've tried to erase him, but certain things still are, they couldn't erase. So they try to make a story look not as credible as possible, but I believe the story because.
Yeah, I don't know enough to, honestly, about it to be able to make an intelligent statement on whether I believe him or not. I mean, it's just such a wild story, but, it could happen.
Right.
It could happen.
Right. Another thing is a lot of the stuff about a story is after he initially told the story and came out with his DVD, he disappeared from the UFO community because basically he got what he wanted out there, and that's all he had. A lot of these people that were trying to hoax something would keep coming back maybe with more stuff to try to keep their name in the limelight or something like that, but he never did that. He just, initially brought forth what he had, and that was it. In other cases, like, videographers like me, we just keep getting more stuff, so we just keep posting stuff. And people that have experience with the abduction phenomenon or contact, they keep having contact, so we keep coming up with new stuff. So there's just different aspects to different cases.
Mm-hmm.
That his case, from the get-go of it, I always thought that had to have been a true case after studying it for a while.
Well, I just don't see, I don't think he made $1 million by telling the story, right?
He made nothing. Really,
yeah.
Very little.
So I don't see why someone would put themselves through so much grief.
Yeah, and danger.
And danger. Right. Unless it kind of started off small and then got out of control or something. But, I don't know if we'll ever know the truth or not.
And if you watch the video, the technical aspects of everything he says makes perfect sense. And before watching the video, it's almost like these craft are shrouded in some sort of mystery. But after his technical, explanation of this race of beings, and remember, in the case he talks about, he was only shown the documents and worked with just one craft. There was I believe six more craft that he didn't have access to, and they could have been from different types of extraterrestrials,
right.
different ones that were from a different civilization other than the Greys.
Unbelievable stuff, I tell you. It's just crazy. Well, listen, Jeff. Unfortunately, we got so much into our discussion here. We're running low on time. And so I'm going to have to ask you perhaps if you could come back, because there's some other stuff I want to talk to you about, but we just don't have enough time. But I did want to mention, I understand you have a new DVD out?
Yeah, I have a DVD that's available right now. It's called Alien Finders. It's on my website, UFOsoverPhoenix.com or UFOfootage.net. And if you go to UFOsoverPhoenix.com, at the very top, you're going to see a new DVD that I'm working on right now that hasn't been released yet. It's called Paranormal X Finding ET. But if you scroll a little bit down past that, you'll see the newest DVD that is available called Alien Finders. And that features me and a guy named Jason Bales from Texas and another guy, Mario Viejo, from San Antonio, Texas, and another guy named Tom Saborin that had videotaped a lot of the Gulf Breeze video from back in the 90s. But all the video on there is new, except for some of Tom's stuff, which is kind of new because a lot of it's never been seen before.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that Gulf Breeze, boy, they had some bizarre stuff going down there in the 90s, hey?
Absolutely. It's kind of, the flap has kind of died down over the years, but people still see stuff. Unreal stuff.
Well, listen, Jeff, we could probably sit here and talk for 2 hours. You are a wealth of information. So, if you would be so kind to come back and visit again, we'll. Because I wanted to talk to you about this sun technique for shooting video. I wanted to talk to you about the Brian Besant hoax. But how about if we schedule episode 2 and you come back and talk to us about that?
Absolutely, yeah. Just let me know when you want me to come back on, and I'll be happy to come back on. I've got lots of stuff to talk about. Like you said, there's so much information out there. It's hard to get to it in just an hour or so.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and the time just goes so fast. So, Well, listen, Jeff, thanks again. I will put up all the URLs up for your sites and the DVD, and we'll
Great.
schedule something up for right after the new year, maybe, and we can we'll take off from where we left.
Absolutely great. It's been great being on the show. Thanks a lot.
Okay, all right, Jeff. Well, listen, you have a good evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Open the door, you'll find the secret. To find the answer is to keep it.